So it's true, Tund? You bought that girl a house in Lecky. My voice cracked across the dining room like thunder. The clatter of cutlery stopped. The hum of the air conditioner suddenly sounded like judgment. Everyone froze. My mother-in-law, our two grown children, and even the housekeeper standing at the door. What? Tund blinked, his fork hovering midair over the steaming jollof rice. Beezy, lower your voice. You're embarrassing yourself. Embarrassing myself? I slammed my palm on the table so hard the wine glasses trembled. You embarrassed this family the day you decided to keep a side chick and buy her a house with our money. What would you do if your husband said this to you? Hit like if you've experienced betrayal, and comment below where you're watching from. Tund's mother, Mama T, gasped. Beezy, stop this madness. Don't bring shame to this family in front of the children. I turned to her, shaking, tears and fury burning together in my eyes. Mama, with all due respect, your son brought shame here, not me. He's been cheating for months. And that girl, she's young enough to be his daughter. Tund dropped his fork and stood up, his gold wristwatch flashing under the chandelier. Beezy, this is not the place. We'll talk about this later. No, Tund, we will talk about it now. You've been sneaking out every Friday, claiming you're in late-night meetings. I found the bank alert. 10 million naira. You sent it to one Miss Sadajai. Who is she? He stiffened, his eyes darting briefly toward his mother. That single glance told me everything I needed to know. He'd been caught. The silence that followed was suffocating. Our daughter, Kemi, whispered, Daddy, say something. But he didn't. He just ran his hand over his bald head and muttered, You wouldn't understand, Kemi. I laughed bitterly. Oh, they'll understand, Tund. They'll understand that their father, the great billionaire philanthropist, has been sleeping with a struggling street singer while pretending to sponsor her music career. Mama T stood up. Enough. Beezy, you will not drag your husband's name in the mud. You know men. Sometimes they make mistakes. Mistakes? I scoffed. Buying her a house and car is not a mistake. It's a lifestyle. Tund's voice finally hardened. Beezy, watch your mouth. You don't talk to me like that in my house. I rose too, my body trembling with rage. Your house. This is our house, Tund. I helped you build your empire. I stood by you when you had nothing but that old rickety Toyota and dreams too big for your pockets. Now you call it your house. Mama T grabbed her handbag and hissed. You see why I told you not to marry a woman from a Badon. No respect. I ignored her completely. My focus locked on the man I once thought was my destiny. Tell me who she is, Tund. Tell me why you'd throw away 20 years of marriage for a girl who sings on the street corners of Acacia. He finally looked at me. Really looked. His face softened for just a second. Beezy, please, let it go. That softness broke me more than the betrayal itself. Because behind it I saw guilt. Deep, choking guilt. I stepped closer, my voice trembling now. I can't let it go. Not when every time you disappear, I imagine you with her. Not when people in the office whisper about how your charity isn't charity at all. Tund turned to the children. Go upstairs. But Kemi slammed her napkin on the table. No, Daddy. We're adults. We deserve to know the truth. His jaw tightened. Fine. He turned to me. You want the truth? Saad is someone I used to know. From a long time ago. I was helping her get back on her feet. Helping her, I repeated, by putting her in lace wigs and designer shoes. She's been through a lot, he murmured. I felt something twist in my stomach. How much help does she need, Tund? 10 million naira worth. He didn't answer, and that's when Kemi whispered something that sent a chill through my bones. Mom, didn't you say her name is Sadajai? Yes. Kemi looked pale. I've seen her. She sings at the Walkway near Victoria Island. The one people call the Walkway Angel. She's gone viral a few times. I even have her video on my phone. Viral. I repeated, dazed. Kemi tapped on her screen and turned it toward us. There she was, Saad, a slim, dark-skinned girl with short natural hair, barefoot on the street, singing a Yoruba gospel song that made passers-by stop in awe. Her voice was hauntingly familiar. Too familiar. The blood drained from my face as I stared at the phone. The way she tilted her head, the slight scar above her lip, it couldn't be. My knees went weak. Tund, I whispered. Where did you say you met her? He swallowed, his voice barely audible. At the university. Years ago. Something inside me shattered. Ton, that girl. She looks just like... Before I could finish, the lights flickered. Then his phone rang on the table. The caller ID lit up clear as day. Saad, my daughter. Everyone gasped. My mouth fell open. You're what? Tun's face turned ashen. He reached for the phone, but I snatched it before he could. My heart pounded like a drum in my ears as I read the name again, over and over. Your daughter? I repeated, my voice breaking. You have another daughter, Tun? The entire table erupted. Mama, T shouting, Kimmy crying, me shaking uncontrollably. BZ, please, he tried to say, but I was beyond reason. You lied to me for 2 decades. You have another child, grown, singing on the streets, while I raise yours like a fool. The phone kept ringing, the name flashing like a curse. Saad, my daughter. And as I stared at that screen, my world tilted. Who is this girl really? And why did Tun look like a man who'd seen a ghost? The phone finally stopped ringing. Then a new message popped up on the screen. From Saad, my daughter. Daddy, please. I'm outside your gate. I need to tell you the truth before it's too late. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. The message glowed on the phone screen like a threat. Daddy, please. I'm outside your gate. I need to tell you the truth before it's too late. My hands shook as I stared at it. The air in the dining room felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. Kimmy gasped. Mom, she's outside. Tun snatched the phone from me, his voice trembling. Nobody moves. I'll handle this. I blocked his path. No, Tun. If that girl is truly your daughter, we're all going to hear this truth together. Tonight. Mama T hissed under her breath. BZ, don't cause a scene in front of the children. Cause a scene. I turned on her, shaking. Mama, a strange girl just called my husband Daddy. After 20 years of marriage, what other scene could possibly be worse than this? The gate intercom buzzed. The security guard's voice crackled. Madam, there's one young woman outside. She says she must see Olga immediately. Let her in, I said before Tun could speak. BZ, let her in. My voice sliced through the silence. Even the housekeeper at the doorway flinched. Tun looked like a man trapped between 2 worlds, his face pale, his breath short. We waited. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder with every second. Then, the front door opened. She stepped in slowly, barefoot, in a faded yellow dress. Her hair was short, natural, and the same way she'd looked in the viral video. Saad. Her eyes darted nervously between all of us, finally resting on Tun. Daddy, she whispered. I felt my knees weaken. She said it so naturally, so tenderly. Kimmy's jaw dropped. Daddy. Tun closed his eyes, his voice low. Saad, what are you doing here? You stopped answering my calls, she said softly. I couldn't wait any longer. You promised me we'd talk. You said you'd finally tell her the truth. She turned to me, her eyes wide, uncertain. You must be Mrs. BZ Adetola. My chest tightened. Yes, I managed to say. And you must be the reason my husband has been lying to me. She swallowed hard. It's not what you think, Ma. Then tell me what I should think. I snapped. Tun tried to step between us. BZ, please. I shoved him aside. You've said enough lies, Tun. Let her speak. Saad took a deep breath, tears glistening in her eyes. I didn't come to destroy your family. I just wanted to know my father. I froze. Your father? She nodded slowly. My mother told me about him before she died. She said his name was Tun Adetola, the rich man who left her when she got pregnant. She said he didn't even know she had the baby. I didn't believe her until I found him. My stomach dropped. Who was your mother? Her lip trembled. A woman named Jumok Adebayo. She used to work for your company 21 years ago. I felt the blood rush from my face. Jumok. Tun's head hung low. I remembered her now, tall, graceful, always humming around the office. She was one of the secretaries back when we were just building our first business. I had even attended her wedding years ago, or so I thought. But Tun never told me they'd been involved. I turned to him, voice breaking. Is this true, Tun? Did you sleep with her? He didn't look up. It was before you and I got married. I swear, BZ, I didn't know she was pregnant. I thought she left the company and moved abroad. Saad wiped her eyes. She didn't. She raised me alone, selling Puff Puff at the bus stop. When she got sick, she told me everything. And when she died, I started singing on the streets, hoping one day you'd hear me. Her voice cracked. You did, didn't you? That's why you came to me that night on the walkway. The whole room was silent. I stared at her, this girl with my husband's eyes and my son's nose, and my heart twisted between anger and heartbreak. So that's why you bought her a house, I whispered. To hide your guilt. Tun finally looked at me. I want to make things right, Beezy. She's my daughter. Our blood. Our blood. I laughed bitterly. You kept her a secret while I was killing myself, building your empire, and raising your children. You didn't even tell me when you found her. I didn't want to lose you, he said. Then you should have been honest, I spat. Mama T clapped her hands together in despair. Tun, what have you done? This child, she has your face. Sa began to cry quietly. Please, Ma. I didn't mean to cause pain. I just wanted to know him before it was too late. I softened slightly at her words, but the anger still throbbed beneath. Too late? What do you mean by that? She hesitated. Because I'm sick, Ma. The words hung in the air. Sick? I repeated. She nodded. The doctor says it's my kidneys. I've been on dialysis. I came because I need my father's help. I don't have much time left. Tun staggered back, gripping the chair for balance. Oh, God. I stared at her in shock. For a moment, my anger melted into pity. But then, something darker crept in. A question I didn't want to ask, but couldn't ignore. How long have you known him, Tun? He whispered. A few months. And you never told me? He covered his face. I didn't know how. You didn't know how? My voice trembled with rage. You didn't know how to tell your wife that you have a dying daughter on the streets of Lagos? You can deceive me, but you couldn't even save her. Tun's voice broke. I'm trying, Beezy. I swear I am. The pain in his voice hit me, but so did the betrayal. I turned to Saad, tears streaming down my face. If what you say is true, then your father is a coward. But you, I swallowed hard. You deserved better than this. Saad wiped her cheeks, her voice faint. He's all I have left. And then, her knees buckled. Kimmy, I screamed as we rushed forward. Saad collapsed onto the marble floor, unconscious. Tund shouted her name, lifting her into his arms, panic flooding his face. Call the driver. We're going to St. Nicholas Hospital now. As he ran out the door with her, I stood frozen, the scent of spilled wine and perfume thick in the air. I whispered to myself, what else have you been hiding, Tund? Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of the truth. It was only the beginning. At the hospital, the doctor takes one look at Tund and says quietly, Sir, before we begin treatment, there's something you should see. Her medical file, it lists you as her emergency contact and also her organ donor match. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and regret. I sat in the cold waiting area of St. Nicholas Hospital, clutching my handbag like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Through the glass wall, I could see Tund pacing outside the doctor's office, his shoulders hunched, his usually proud posture gone. I had cried all my tears on the ride here. Now, only silence remained. When the doctor came out, his face was grim. Mrs. Adetola? We'll stabilize her, but she's very weak. The dialysis isn't working anymore. I swallowed hard. What do you mean? He looked between us, his tone careful. She'll need a kidney transplant soon. And according to her records, Mr. Adetola here is a perfect match. Tun's lips trembled. A match. The doctor nodded. Yes, sir. I believe you already did tests some weeks ago. I turned sharply to him. You already knew? He looked away. The doctor hesitated, sensing the tension. I'll give you both a moment. The door shut behind him, leaving a silence that felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. I stood slowly. So, you've been seeing her for weeks. Doing tests. Keeping secrets. Tund rubbed his face. Beezy, I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. I didn't want to hurt you more. Hurt me more. I said, my voice cracking. You've been living a double life, Tund. A daughter I never knew existed, a dying girl you've been visiting in secret. And you think you could hide that forever? He sighed. You don't understand. Then make me understand. He looked up at me, tears glistening in his eyes. I thought I could fix it quietly. I wanted to pay for her treatments, make up for lost time before telling you. But then she started getting worse. And the only way to save her is for me to give her one of my kidneys. My heart thudded painfully. You mean you go under surgery for her? Without even telling your wife? He nodded slowly. The realization hit like a slap. He wasn't just saving her life. He was willing to risk his own for a child he'd hidden from me for 20 years. I sank into the chair, shaking. And what about me, Tund? Did you think how it would feel finding out this way? He knelt beside me. I was scared, Beezy. You've always been strong, but I know how betrayal breaks you. I didn't want to lose you. I stared at him, tears blurring my vision. You already did. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rhythmic beeping of a monitor somewhere down the hall filled the silence between us. Then, from the open ward door, I heard a soft hum. A voice, sweet and fragile, like glass about to shatter. Sod. She was awake, humming that same Yoruba gospel tune from the video. Tund rose immediately and rushed to her bedside. I followed, though my chest ached with every step. She smiled faintly as he approached. Daddy, you came. He took her hand. Always. I stood a few feet away, unsure whether I was intruding or needed to be there. Saad looked at me. I'm sorry, Ma. I didn't want to come between you and your husband. You didn't come between us, I said softly. He did that himself. She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. My mother used to tell me he was a good man. She never stopped believing that. Something about that broke me. Jumok, faithful even to the end. I whispered, if she were alive, I'd tell her she was half right. Tund turned to me, guilt flooding his eyes. Beezy, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed again. He frowned at the screen. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Hello. The voice that came through made his eyes widen. Even from where I stood, I could hear it, cold, female, and trembling with fury. Tundadetala. This is Funk, Jumok's sister. You think you can just walk away again after what you did? My heart skipped. He stepped into the hallway. Funk? What are you talking about? She laughed bitterly over the phone. You think saving her will wash your sins away? You think giving her a kidney makes you a saint? You don't even know the full story, Tund. You destroyed that girl's life before she was born. The line went dead. He stood frozen, his phone slipping from his fingers. I rushed out after him. What did she say? He looked at me pale. She said, I destroyed her life before she was born. What does that even mean? He shook his head slowly, confusion and dread written all over his face. I don't know, but I could tell he was lying. Something deep in his eyes, something dark, told me he did know. I folded my arms. Tund, what aren't you telling me? He rubbed his forehead, muttering, not now, Beezy. No, you'll tell me now. I snapped. You've lied enough. What happened between you and Jumok? He turned away. It was a long time ago. I made mistakes. I stepped closer. What kind of mistakes? Before he could answer, a nurse ran toward us. Mr. Adetola, you need to come, please. We both rushed back to the room. Saad was gasping for breath, the monitors beeping wildly. Nurses surrounded her, shouting medical orders. Her blood pressure's dropping. Tund stumbled forward, shouting her name. Saad, hold on, baby. I stood in the corner, frozen, my heart pounding in terror. The doctor burst in, barking instructions. They pushed Tund back as they worked, inserting tubes, adjusting the oxygen. After what felt like forever, the doctor turned to us, his face solemn. She's stable, but barely. We need that transplant immediately. Without it, she might not make it through the week. Tund nodded, eyes glassy. Then do it. I'll sign whatever's needed. The doctor sighed. You can, sir. But there's a complication. We both looked up sharply. What complication? I demanded. The doctor glanced down at his clipboard. According to the file, sir, you're already listed as her organ donor. Tund frowned. Yes, I agreed to it. That's not the problem, the doctor said quietly. The problem is someone already approved the transplant date. For tomorrow morning. I blinked. Tomorrow? But we just... The doctor handed him a paper. And this signature here looks like yours. Tund's face drained of color. He whispered, that's impossible. The doctor frowned. Then, sir, who signed this form? As Tund stared at the forged signature, his phone buzzed again with a text message from an unknown number. If you want to know who signed it, check your wife's drawer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. I couldn't sleep that night. The doctor's words replayed in my head. Someone already signed the transplant forms, using Tun's name. And that text message. If you want to know who signed it, check your wife's drawer. I stare at my bedside drawer like it might bite me. Tund was still at the hospital, keeping watch over Saad. Kemi was upstairs, and Mama T had insisted on staying in the guest room to pray. The whole house felt heavy with secrets. I finally opened the drawer. Inside were old photos, receipts, and a folder I didn't remember putting there. It was a hospital folder. I pulled it out slowly. My hands shook as I read the label. St. Nicholas Medical, Consent and Authorization Form. The signature at the bottom was Tun's. But the handwriting, I knew it too well. It was Mama T's. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The air left my lungs. My mother-in-law, the woman who'd called me daughter for 20 years, had forged her own son's signature? Why? I heard footsteps behind me. I quickly shoved the folder back into the drawer. Kemi stood at the door in her nightgown. Mum, why are you up? I forced a smile. Just couldn't sleep. She walked in, worry creasing her face. Is Dad coming home tonight? I shook my head. He'll stay with her at the hospital. Kemi sat beside me on the bed. Mum, I don't know what to believe anymore. I saw how he looked at that girl. It's like guilt and love at the same time. I sighed, holding her hand. He made mistakes. Big ones. But something tells me there's more going on than he's saying. Kemi frowned. What do you mean? I hesitated, then whispered, someone forged your father's signature on the transplant papers. And I think I know who. Her eyes widened. Who? I didn't answer. Not yet. Just then, the door creaked open. Mama T, her wrapper tied tightly, clutching her Bible. Beezy, she said softly. Why are the lights still on? I studied her face. Calm, practiced, unreadable. I couldn't sleep, Mama. She nodded, stepping closer. You should pray instead of worrying. God will handle this. Kemi excused herself, sensing the tension. As soon as she left, I stood. Mama, can we talk honestly? She arched a brow. Of course. I found something in my drawer, I said carefully. A hospital form with Tun's signature, except it's not his handwriting. Her eyes flickered just for a second. Why are you telling me this? Because the handwriting looks like yours. Silence. Then she smiled, small, cold, tired. You always had sharp eyes, Beezy. I froze. So you did sign it? She exhaled slowly and sat down. I had to. You had to forge your son's name. You don't understand, she said, voice trembling. That girl, Saad, she's the blood of this family. If she dies, her blood is on our heads. My son is too weak to do what's right, so I made the choice for him. I stared at her in disbelief. You had no right. That's his decision. She looked up, her gaze sharp now. And what would you have done, Beezy? Let her die. Let the world say the Adedalas abandoned a child of their blood. This isn't about reputation. I shouted. This is about truth. Mama T rose, eyes blazing. Truth? You want truth? The truth is, I warned you years ago. Tun's past would haunt him. That Jumok girl. She wasn't just a mistake. She was a curse. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. What do you mean by that? Her lips pressed tight. Ask your husband. I clenched my fists. You forged medical documents, Mama. That's a crime. She met my gaze without flinching. I'd do it again if it meant saving my granddaughter. The word hung in the air, granddaughter. So she'd accepted Saad fully, without hesitation. While I, the wife who built this family, was the outsider. The betrayal cut deep. I whispered. You looked me in the eye at dinner, told me to stop embarrassing your son, when you knew everything. She said nothing. My chest tightened, anger and sorrow colliding. You're not saving this family, Mama. You're destroying it. She turned toward the door. One day you'll thank me. When she left, I sank onto the bed, shaking. My life, my marriage, was unraveling like old fabric. I pulled the drawer open again. Beneath the folder was something else, an envelope with my name scrawled across it. Inside was a black and white photo, a younger Tund standing beside Jumok, and behind them, Mama T, smiling. I gasped. There was writing on the back. For our deal, 2003. Keep this between us. A deal? Between Mama T and Jumok? I couldn't breathe. Mid-chapter YouTube, CTA, backhand index pointing down. Sparkles, have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything you believed in? Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more shocking African family stories. Sparkles. My phone buzzed just then, a message from Tund. She's asleep. Surgery confirmed for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Come early. I stared at the photo again. If Mama T and Jumok had a secret deal, then this surgery might not just be about saving Sada's life. It might be about protecting their lie. I slipped the photo into my bag and whispered, "No one else can see this." Not yet. But as I turned off the light, I heard movement outside my door, soft, careful footsteps. When I opened it, the hallway was empty except for one thing. On the floor lay another envelope, identical handwriting. I picked it up, heart pounding. Inside was a single note. If you want to know what the deal was, be at the hospital morgue at midnight. Come alone. The hallway light flickered, and from the end of the corridor, Mama T's door opened slightly, just enough for me to see her watching me through the crack. Her lips moved silently, but I could read the words. Don't go there, Beezy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. I couldn't stop hearing Mama T's whisper in my head, "Don't go there, Beezy." But how could I not? If that letter was true, if there really was a deal between her and Jumok, then everything about my marriage had been a lie. At exactly 11:45 p.m., I slipped out of the house. The streets of Ikoyi were half asleep. Only the hum of distant generators and the cry of a night hawker selling roasted corn. I wrapped my shawl tighter and prayed no one saw me leave. When I reached St. Nicholas Hospital, the gates loomed like silent guards. I told the sleepy security man that my husband forgot his documents upstairs. He waved me through with barely a glance. The morgue was on the lower level, cold and echoing, smelling faintly of disinfectant and fear. My footsteps sounded too loud. Then a shadow moved. "Who's there?" I whispered. A tall man in a lab coat stepped forward, his face half hidden. "Mrs. Adetola?" "Yes." He nodded. "I was told you'd come. Here." He handed me a small brown envelope. My palms were slick as I opened it. Inside were photocopies, bank statements, letters, and one official-looking document titled Settlement Agreement, 2003. The first line made my knees buckle. This agreement is between Mrs. Funmaleo Adetola, Mama T, and Miss Jumok Alawale regarding the custody and financial upkeep of a child born of Mr. Tund Adetola. My heart stopped. It wasn't just an affair. Mama T had paid Jumok to disappear. The document spelled it out. 5 million Nigerian nairas in exchange for Jumok's silence and promise never to contact Tund again. And at the bottom, another signature, Tund Adetola. But this one too was forged. I whispered, "Dear God." The lab man cleared his throat. "Ma, there's more. I found something when the new patient, the girl, was admitted. The name on her file was Saad Alawale Adetola. Someone changed it to Saad Alawale just before the surgery." My skin prickled. "Who changed it?" He hesitated. "Your mother-in-law came by that day. Said it was a clerical error." The pieces slammed together in my head. Mama T forged the signature, hid the truth, and now she was trying to erase the Adetola name again. I was shaking. Why would she do this? He shrugged. Maybe to protect her son's legacy. Or maybe to protect herself. Just then, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Fast. Determined. The man stiffened. "Someone's coming. You should go." I shoved the papers into my bag and ducked behind the curtain. The door burst open. Mama T. She looked furious, her wrapper flaring behind her. "Where is she?" The lab man stammered. "Who, Ma?" She raised her walking stick slightly. "Don't play games. My daughter-in-law. I know she's here." I held my breath, frozen in the darkness. Then her voice softened, trembling now. "Please, don't let her see those papers. She'll destroy everything." Destroy everything? What more was left to destroy? The lab man said quietly, "She already took them." Mama T gasped a raw, broken sound. Then her tone changed, low and dangerous. "You've made a big mistake." Her slippers scraped the floor as she turned to leave. For a moment, She stopped at the doorway and whispered to herself, God forgive me. It was supposed to save him. When the hall fell silent, I slipped out, running up the stairs, my bag pressed to my chest. Outside, the wind slapped my face. I could still hear Mama T's voice echoing. It was supposed to save him. Save who? Back home, I locked my bedroom door and spread the papers across the bed. Each line screamed betrayal. Tun's name, Mama T's signature. The date, March 2003, the same month our first child, Kemi, was born. That was the day I'd almost lost my life in labor. Tund wasn't at the hospital. He told me he was at a business meeting in Abuja. But now I knew. He was signing a deal to buy a woman's silence. I sank to my knees. Oh, Tund, what have you done? A soft knock made me jump. Beezy, it was him. I scrambled to hide the documents under the pillow. You're back early, I said, forcing my voice steady. He stepped in, tired and pale. Sada's surgery went well. She's sleeping. That's good, I murmured. He watched me carefully. Why are you shaking? I smiled tightly. Cold. He reached to hug me, but I pulled away. The scent of antiseptic clung to his shirt. Tund, I said softly, when were you planning to tell me about Jumok's deal with your mother? His face drained of color. I pressed on. About the money she gave her and the forged signature? He stumbled back, eyes wide. Al, how did you know that? I pointed to my bag. Because I've seen the proof. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he whispered, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Like what, Tund? You lied to me for 20 years. You let me raise your children while you hid another one like a sin. He covered his face. Mama said it was the only way to protect us. Protect us? Or protect you? He looked up, tears brimming. Beezy, please. You don't understand. Then make me understand. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. We both turned toward the window. A brick lay on the floor, wrapped in paper. Tund picked it up slowly, unwrapping the note. His hands trembled. I leaned closer to read the message. The truth isn't yours to hide anymore. Tomorrow, the world will know everything. Our eyes met in stunned silence. Outside, a car engine roared and sped away into the night. Have you ever discovered a secret so deep it changed how you saw your family forever? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unforgettable African dramas from Tales by AO. As dawn broke, Tund's phone buzzed with a new notification. On the screen was a viral post already spreading across Lagos. Billionaire Tund Adetola exposed, secret daughter, forged signatures, and family cover-up. Details and photos inside. And beneath it, a leaked image of the same document I had just hidden. Someone had already beaten me to it. I woke up with the sound of my phone ringing and my name being shouted from the gate. Madam Beezy, Madam, turn on your TV. It was our gateman, Sunday, his voice breaking with panic. My heart pounded as I reached for the remote. The screen blinked to life, and there it was. Channel 24 breaking news. Billionaire Tund Adetola exposed, secret daughter, medical forgery, and family scandal. My husband's face filled the screen, followed by the photo of Saad, then mine. The anchor's voice was cold and deliberate. Sources reveal that the child's mother, the late Miss Jumok Alawale, was allegedly paid by the Adetola family to disappear years ago. Leaked documents show signatures and a forged authorization for a recent surgery. My breath caught. They were showing the exact document I found in my drawer. How did the media get it so fast? Then, they played a voice note. Mama T's voice. I only did what was right for my son. The girl is his blood. Beezy will never understand. My knees buckled. They had recorded her. I sank onto the couch, the room spinning. Outside, I could already hear murmurs, neighbors gossiping, camera shutters clicking from across the street. Tund rushed in, his phone glued to his ear. I don't care how it leaked. Just handle it, he barked, pacing. When he saw me, his voice softened. Beezy, I swear I didn't. I raised a hand. Save it. He froze. Everything you built, everything we built, it's collapsing because you couldn't tell the truth. He tried to come closer, but I stepped back. Don't. Just don't. Mama T stumbled down the stairs, her headscarf half undone. They've ruined us, Beezy. Those devils from that gossip blog. I cut her off. No, Mama. You ruined us. You and your secrets. She clutched her chest. You think I wanted this? You think I enjoyed lying to protect you all? Protect who? Yourself. Her face crumpled. I did it for my son. Tun shouted. Enough. Both of you. The house went silent. He looked from me to his mother, eyes hollow. They've frozen my company's account. Investors are pulling out. The board wants a statement by noon. Then tell them the truth, I said quietly. He shook his head. If I do that, I lose everything. Maybe it's time you did, I whispered. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the loyal wife who smiled at every gala, who stayed silent when rumors floated. But today, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to protect him anymore. While they argued, I slipped upstairs and locked the door. Then I opened my laptop. On social media, the scandal was trending. Hashtag Adetala affair. Hashtag secret daughter saga. Hashtag Lagos billionaire lies. The comments were brutal. Some pitied me. Others mocked me. One headline read, "Meet the betrayed wife of Lagos fallen billionaire." I stared at that line for a long time. Betrayed wife. That's all I was to them. But not for long. I opened my email drafts, something I hadn't touched in years. The one labeled Plan B. Inside were saved copies of company documents, land titles, and business transfers I'd quietly kept. I'd always managed Tun's charity accounts. And over the years, I'd learned where his money really went, including a mysterious maintenance account that received 500,000 Nigerian nairas monthly, the one listed under Jumoke's name until her death. I whispered, "So you've been paying for your sins all these years." If the world wanted a story, I'd give them the truth. I began drafting a public statement, calm, poised, and surgical. I, Mrs. Beezy Adetala, was not aware of the forgery or the child until recently. My heart breaks for Saad, who is innocent in all of this. But integrity demands that truth come to light. I added one more line. I will cooperate fully with the authorities investigating this case. As I typed, tears blur my vision. Not just from anger, from freedom. For once, I wasn't hiding behind my husband's shadow. Downstairs, I could hear Mama T's voice again, pleading. Tun, call the lawyer. Stop your wife before she destroys us completely. I smiled faintly. Oh, Mama, it's already destroyed. Mid-chapter YouTube, CTA backhand index pointing down medium dark skin tone. Sparkles, have you ever seen someone lose everything because of one secret? Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful African family stories on Tales by A.O. Sparkles. At noon, the gate exploded with noise, reporters, policemen, and camera flashes. Mama T screamed from the balcony. Beezy, what have you done? I walked down slowly, holding my statement in hand. What I should have done years ago. A journalist shoved a microphone toward me. Mrs. Adetala, is it true you're pressing charges? I met their gaze steadily. It's true, I won't lie anymore. Tun stepped beside me, voice cracking. Beezy, please. Not like this. For 20 years, you let me live in a lie, I said. Now you'll live in the truth. The officers handed him a summons. The Forgery and Medical Fraud Investigation Unit. Mama T cried out, clutching her chest again. You're sending your husband to prison. I looked at her gently. No, Mama. I'm letting justice do what you wouldn't. As they led Tun toward the car, our eyes met one last time. He mouthed, I'm sorry. I wanted to hate him, but instead I whispered, so am I. The car door closed. The cameras flashed. And just like that, the Adetala empire began to crumble. But as the convoy pulled away, a small girl's voice called out from behind the crowd. Mummy Beezy. I turned. It was Saad, fragile, bandage, her nurse holding her arm. She looked at me with those same eyes as Tun's. Why are they taking my daddy away? She asked softly. The words hit harder than any headline. I bent down, my throat burning. Because adults make mistakes, my dear. But you'll be safe now, okay? She nodded slowly, then reached in her pocket and handed me a folded note. Grandma said to give you this. I unfolded it. Mama T's handwriting. You think you've won, Beezy, but there's one more truth you don't know. And when it comes out, You'll lose everything too. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number, a new message. Meet me at the old Adetala estate tonight. I have proof of what your husband hid, and it involves your own daughter. The screen went black. My hands trembled. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. The cold metal against my neck made every muscle in my body freeze. Drop the file. The voice said again, low male controlled. I let the folder slip from my shaking hands. It landed on the wet ground with a dull thud. Step back. I obeyed. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. The flashlight beam blinded me, but I caught a glimpse of his wrist, a hospital ID tag. Your doctor? I whispered. He didn't answer. He kicked the folder toward the light, flipped through the pages, then said, we can't let this leave the compound. Another figure stepped out of the shadows. The beam caught her face. Nurse Ruth. She wasn't alone. Mama T told me you'd come, she said, her tone flat. But you were supposed to listen, not dig. You lied to me, I hissed. That story about the switched babies, was any of it true? Oh, it's true, she said softly. But not the way you think. She took a step closer. The mix-up happened, but the decision, it wasn't only your mother-in-law's. It was your husband's. My knees weakened. Stunned. He knew which child was whose. He chose the one whose birth certificate said Adetala, because the other record had Awakens written on it. He didn't want the world to see what he'd done. The words sliced through me. Tund had chosen convenience over truth. I whispered, why now? Why drag me here? Nurse Ruth gave a small, bitter smile. Because someone had to clean up the mess. Mama T promised us payment if we helped keep things quiet. But the scandal ruined everything. The money stopped. So now, someone has to pay. She nodded at the man. He bent to pick up the folder. Something in me snapped. You'll not bury the truth again. I swung my flashlight into his arm. He grunted, dropping the gun. I kicked it away and ran, past the cracked pillars, across the weed-choked yard. Stop her! The night erupted with shouts. I reached the gate, but the padlock was new and heavy. Desperate, I scaled the side fence, the rust biting into my palms. Behind me, a flashlight beam cut through the rain. I jumped, hit the ground hard, and rolled into a ditch. My knee screamed with pain, but I crawled until I reached the road. A motorbike approached, a young Okada rider with earbuds glowing blue. I waved frantically. Please, I'll pay double. Take me to Victoria Island. He looked at me once, at the mud on my coat, at the fear in my eyes, and nodded. The bike roared to life. Wind slapped my face, tearing away the smell of rust and old secrets. When we reached my street, I threw money at the rider and limped through the gate. The house was dark, quiet, too quiet. I crept inside, dripping water on the marble floor. Then I heard voices in the study. Tun's voice. Low, urgent. She's not supposed to know yet, Mama. We can fix this if she stays quiet. Mama T answers sharply. You still don't understand. She has the file. She'll destroy us. I can talk to her. You've talked enough. Let me handle it. I pushed the door open. Both of them froze. Handle what, Mama? I asked. Her face drained of color. Beezy, you're hurt. What happened? I held up the muddy folder. You sent people after me. They nearly killed me. Tun stepped forward. No, I swear I didn't. Then tell me the truth. I shouted. Did you switch the babies? Silence. Mama T looked away. Tun's mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find air. Finally, he whispered, yes. The sound of that one word shattered something inside me. He sank into a chair, burying his face. You were dying that night, Beezy. The doctors said the weaker child might not make it. Mama begged me to choose. I thought, if we took the stronger one, at least you'd have a chance to heal. And you never told me? He looked up, eyes red. How could I? You loved Kimmy like your own. She was your own in every way that mattered. I backed away. And Saad, my real child. You let her grow up poor, sick, abandoned. He stood. I paid for her care. With lies. I snapped. You paid for silence. Mama T whispered, Beezy, please. The world doesn't need to know this. But I wasn't listening anymore. I walked to the desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the small flash drive where I'd saved all the evidence. I'm done covering your sins, I said quietly. Tomorrow morning, the world will know exactly who switched those babies and why. Tun's voice broke. You'll ruin both girls, Beezy. Don't you see? They'll hate us all. They already will, I said. But at least they'll hate us for the truth. He reached out as if to stop me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me. A sudden knock thundered at the front door. All three of us jumped. The knock came again, harder this time. Mama T whispered, "Who is that at this hour?" I moved toward the hallway, but before I could reach the door, a voice called from outside. "Mrs. Adetola, open up. It's the police. We have a warrant." Tun's face went blank. A warrant? For what? The officer's voice boomed through the door. For obstruction of justice and the kidnapping of a child 20 years ago. Mama T gasped. Kidnapping. I turned to Tund. What did you do, Tund? He didn't answer. He just looked at me. Eyes hollow, defeated, as the door burst open and torchlights flooded the room. Mid-chapter YouTube, CTA, backhand index pointing down medium dark skin tone. Sparkles, if you discovered your own husband hid the biggest truth of your life, what would you do? Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping African dramas on Tales by AO. As the officers read out the warrant, one of them handed me a sealed envelope. "Ma'am," he said, "you want to see this? It came from the hospital this morning." I tore it open and froze. Inside was a fresh DNA report. At the bottom, one line glowed red. Kimmy Adetola, 0% match to both parents. I whispered, "Then whose child is she?" Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. Order. Order in the court. The bailiff's voice thundered through the hall, but it couldn't drown out the clicking of cameras or the whispers of journalists packed shoulder to shoulder along the benches. The smell of cheap perfume, sweat, and damp paper filled the air. Lagos heat had no respect for the air conditioners. I sat stiffly beside my lawyer, hands clasped in my lap, pretending not to hear the hiss comments from the gallery. That's her, the wife. Imagine Billionaire's family hiding stolen baby for 20 years. My heart pounded. On the bench opposite sat Tund, my husband, shoulders slumped. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Mama T was beside him in her gelly and lace, face stone hard, refusing to look at me. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Beezy Adetola, the results of the DNA analysis you submitted have been received. The court has also received a separate set from the police laboratory. They will both be read today." The courtroom went silent. Even the fans seemed to pause. A clerk walked forward with 2 envelopes sealed in red wax. She handed them to the judge, who tore the first open slowly. My breath caught. "Result A," he read, "shows that the child known as Kimmy Adetola shares 0% DNA match with either Mr. or Mrs. Adetola." Gasps filled the room. I felt the floor tilt under me. Mama T murmured, "That's impossible." The judge continued. "Result B concerns the child named Saad Alawale, currently residing in Ajagunal. DNA test confirms a 99.9% match with Mrs. Beezy Adetola." The room exploded with shouts, cameras flashing like lightning. My lawyer gripped my arm. "Stay calm, Adam." Calm? My knees were trembling. My baby, the girl who sang on the walkway, the girl Tund had cried for, was mine. Mama T shot to her feet. "Lies. They're all lies. That girl is nobody." The judge banged his gavel. "Sit down, madam." But she was beyond listening. "I did what I had to do. You think the world would forgive a family shame like yours?" Tund grabbed her hand. "Mama, stop." She wrenched free. "You begged me, Tund. You begged me to fix your mistake when that other woman showed up with her baby." The crowd gasped again. My mind spun. Other woman? I turned to Tund. "What is she talking about?" Tund's face crumpled. "Beezy, before you and I married, there was someone else. I ended it, but she came back pregnant." Mama said, "Enough," the judge barked. But it was too late. The words hung heavy in the humid air. I felt sick. 20 years of my marriage twisted into a single, ugly knot. In the corner, A commotion stirred. Reporters parted as a young woman stepped forward, barefoot, wearing a faded Ankara skirt, clutching a small plastic bag. Her voice was soft but clear. "Please, sir, I am Saad Alawale." Time stopped. Her face, those eyes. I knew them. My breath broke into a sob. "Saad." She nodded. "The police told me to come." Mama T whispered something sharp under her breath and tried to rise again, but two officers stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. The judge looked at Saad kindly. "My child, the report says Mrs. Adetola is your biological mother." Saada's eyes filled. "I used to sing by the walkway outside their office. The man, Mr. Adetola, once cried when he heard me. I didn't know why." Every camera in the hall turned toward Tund. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He whispered, "I knew." Something in her voice, "It was you, Beezy. It sounded like you." The judge cleared his throat. "Given these findings, the court issues a provisional order. The child Kemi Adetola will undergo a second verification test to determine her true origin. The investigation into the hospital's manipulation will continue." Reporters surged forward. Questions flew. "Mr. Adetola, did you buy a baby?" "Madam Beezy, how do you feel knowing your real daughter grew up poor?" I couldn't answer. I simply turned toward Saad, who stood trembling in the aisle. I opened my arms. She hesitated, then ran into them, sobbing. The cameras flashed, capturing every tear. Midway through the chaos, the lead detective entered carrying a new folder. "My lord, we have a statement from the hospital director. He confesses that he falsified 2 birth records, under instruction from an Adetola family member." All eyes swung to Mama T. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "I only wanted to protect my family's name." The judge's gavel fell. "Then you will answer for it in court." 2 officers escorted her away. Tund sank to the floor, weeping openly as journalists shouted his name. The cameras zoomed in, the billionaire crying before the nation. Clapperboard YouTube CTA, mid-chapter. Speech balloon, what would you do if you discovered your real child was switched at birth? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional African dramas from Tales by A.O. As the hall emptied, Saad and I sat side by side on the wooden bench. She held my hand shyly. "Mummy," she whispered, the first time she'd ever called me that. "What will happen to them?" I looked at the reporters outside, their microphones raised like weapons. "The truth will decide," I said softly. "The truth always does." A clerk approached with another envelope. "Madam, this just came from the forensic unit. It's about the second child, Kemi." I took it with shaking hands, tore it open, and froze. The document was short, stamped in red. "Kemi Adetola. DNA matches with none of the registered mothers in our files." "None." I looked up. "Then whose child is she?" Before the clerk could answer, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I pressed accept. A woman's voice crackled through the line. "Mrs. Adetola, if you want to know the truth about Kemi, meet me tomorrow at the old hospital. Come alone." The call ended. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering again. Who is she? What truth was left? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 10, the finale, where the mysterious caller reveals Kemi's real identity and Beezy finally gets poetic justice? The rain had stopped by dawn, but Lagos still felt heavy, as if the sky itself hadn't decided whether to forgive or to punish. I stood before the gate of the old General Hospital in Surulere, my heart drumming against my ribs. The building looked smaller than I remembered. The same cracked walls, the same faded signboard that had once welcomed me 20 years ago, in labor, full of hope. Now it smelled of rust and ghosts. I pushed the door open. Inside, the reception was dim. Cobwebs drooped like old lace from the ceiling. At the end of the hallway, an old woman sat on a plastic chair, wrapped in a shawl. Her eyes lifted when she saw me. "You came," she said softly. I took a cautious step closer. "You called me. Who are you?" "My name is Nurse Grace. I was on duty the night your daughter was born." Her voice trembled as she reached into her bag and pulled out a faded file, corners eaten by time. "I should have spoken years ago, but your husband and his mother, They made us afraid. I swallowed. Tell me the truth. Who is Kemi? She sighed, the kind of sigh that carried years of regret. The night you gave birth, 2 babies were brought in. One was yours, weak but breathing. The other was found abandoned at the gate, barely alive. Your husband came in panic when the doctor said your child might not survive. His mother was crying, saying the family name couldn't handle another scandal. So they told us to swap the bracelets. If one baby died, they would say it was the abandoned one. My throat went dry. And my real baby, she lived. The doctor transferred her to the charity ward under a different name, Sod Allowale. I tried to tell Mama T later, but she paid me to keep quiet. The abandoned baby, Kimmy, grew up under your roof, loved, cared for, but she isn't yours by blood. My knees weakened. The walls spun. You mean both girls were innocent? Yes, Grace whispered. I've lived with the guilt every day since. I kept this. She handed me a small anklet, dull silver, engraved with the name Beezy's child. I took it from the incubator that night. Tears blur my vision. I pressed the anklet to my chest. Why now, Nurse Grace? Because lies destroy generations, child, and truth sets them free. Behind us, footsteps echoed. I turned sharply. Tun stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 officers. His eyes were red, his clothes crumpled. I needed to hear it myself, he said quietly. Nurse Grace looked at him without fear. You were a good man once, Tun Dedela, but fear made you cruel. He nodded. And now truth has made me small. The officer stepped forward. Mrs. Adetala, Mr. Adetala, the commissioner has asked you both to attend a final press briefing. Lagos deserves to hear what happened. I wiped my face. Let them hear everything. The courtroom steps were flooded with reporters by noon. Microphones waved like restless hands, camera flashes slicing through the humid air. Mama T was let out first, face hidden behind dark glasses. She said nothing as the officers guided her into the waiting van. Then Tun stepped up to the podium beside me. His voice shook. I was once celebrated as a billionaire, a family man, a pillar of Lagos society. But I built that image on lies. 20 years ago, I allowed fear and pride to destroy the truth. Today, I want the world to know that my wife, BZ, showed more strength than I ever did. He turned toward me. I'm sorry. The crowd murmured. Cameras clicked. I took the microphone, hands trembling but steady enough. All I wanted was to know the truth. And now that I do, I choose forgiveness, not for them, but for myself. I will not let their sins define my daughters. Both Kimmy and Sod are mine. Blood or not, they are my children. A soft gasp went through the crowd as Sod stepped forward, hand in hand with Kimmy. Both wore white dresses, simple, graceful like morning light. Sod spoke first, her voice clear and melodic, the same voice that had once made Tun cry. We've all been lied to, but we'll start again, together. The audience broke into applause. Tun wept openly. The billionaire who cried, one journalist whispered. For once, the headline didn't sting. It felt honest. Clapperboard mid-chapter, YouTube CTA. Speech balloon, if you believe truth always finds its way home. Even after years of lies. Comment, truth wins below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by AO for more emotional African family dramas. A few weeks later, I stood at the opening of a small foundation in Suralere. The sign above the door read, Voices of Grace for Every Lost Child. Sod had chosen the name herself. Nurse Grace sat beside her, smiling weakly. Reporters asked me why I built it. I smiled. Because once, someone silenced the truth with money. Now we'll let truth sing. Tund, now stripped of his company but still by my side, helped plant a tree in the courtyard. The branches reached upward, trembling in the sunlight. Mama T's trial made the headlines for weeks. She received a light sentence, but the court ordered her to spend her remaining years funding free maternity care in rural areas. Poetic justice. As for Kemi and Sod, they became inseparable, sisters not by blood, but by grace. One evening, as the sun melted behind 3rd Mainland Bridge, Sod hummed softly while I watched them laugh on the balcony. The same melody she had sung on the walkway. the song that had made a billionaire cry and a mother's heart awaken. Tun joined me quietly. Do you think they'll forgive us? I looked at him. Forgiveness isn't given, I said. It's lived. He nodded slowly. Then I'll spend the rest of my life earning it. For the first time in years, I believed him. I closed my eyes, letting the breeze carry the sound of Sada's song through the air, soft, healing, infinite. The truth had found its home. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What lesson did you take from BZ's journey? Comment below. Sparkles the Yendi, billionaire cries after hearing a poor girl sing on the walkway. Then he realizes who she is, Sparkles. Would you like me to write the YouTube voiceover narration version next? Formatted for a 60 to 75-minute video script with pacing cues and emotional voice emphasis for the Tales by AO channel?